The next biggest winner is brought to you in part by We're back to the roundup portion of our show with Richard and Mark. Guys, what I want to touch on first is funding, because we are in a global financial crisis to some degree or another. And I want to find out, I'm sure the audience would like to find out, how that may be impacting your businesses. So, Richard, let's start with you. How is the global financial crisis affecting you? You've got these great deposits, 50 million pounds plus of uranium. How are you going to find the money in order to get that out of the ground and start supplying the world with your uranium?
George, funding is the most critical thing at the moment. It's just the North American markets are closed for equity financings, basically. And the bigger companies that one would normally do a joint venture with are probably just flooded with opportunities, and it takes a while for them to evaluate them all. So I think the immediate strategy is to cut back on expenditure, make sure that you've got enough money or that you can survive on the money that you've got.
Sure.
And the market will turn, and it'll turn quickly. I think we're right at the bottom of the market at the moment.
And I have to assume that U-8 is an advantageous position because you've actually got something that you can bank on over the next 2-3 years coming out of the ground. There's something you can leverage against, as opposed to just companies that are exploring and not sure where they're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that is the critical difference between us and many other companies. And I think that we're in a very good position to make streaming agreements because we have a multi-commodity deposit in Colombia. We could stream off the phosphate for fertilizers or whatever, and it just makes us, it gives us that flexibility that many other companies don't have.
Mark, with you, the challenge I see is this. Typically, tech grows in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
We're 5,000 miles away from there. Canada has been criticized. In fact, a lot of people in the in the web business here criticize the country for not doing enough to attract funding for technology companies. So all the money's going down south. How do you operate out of here? How do you grow out of here and yet attract the funding necessary to grow your business?
Great question. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to take over a public company and restructure a public company for the purpose of raising capital and growth. There are a handful of companies in Toronto, young technology companies, that are successful in raising money, but you don't hear about the thousands that aren't. And unfortunately, it's such a small market when it comes to technology in Toronto.
Of course.
It makes it extremely challenging for early stage and growth companies to be able to raise the capital that's necessary in order to grow into a world market. When you're talking about mobile technology or technology in general, you need to look outside of Canada in order to be a successful player. And that's what we need to do. We need to attract the capital in order to do so. So by restructuring this company and being able to tap into the U.S. as well as Asian markets, European markets, as well as the Canadian market, we've been able to successfully raise the capital needed to date. Unfortunately, yes, the markets are hard, especially in the resource space. But it's kind of created some opportunities for people who are looking to alternative markets as well.
So
right?
you guys are actually benefiting from people saying, let's diversify.
I don't like saying it, but the truth is it's a spill-off, right? And there are a lot of people who are sitting there saying, okay, well, I don't want to be exclusively in resources, and that's what I know. Let's take a look at some technology deals. And the cost of operating and running our business is substantially less than operating a resource company.
Let's talk about actually commercializing your products. You are both in businesses that are favorable to international. You can sell uranium to anybody in the world. You can sell your technology to anybody in the world. So Richard, back to you. What do you think is going to be your primary market in the future for uranium? Everyone's assumption is China, India, China, India. Is that essentially at the end of the day going to be your primary market? Or where do you see your potential markets down the road?
Our primary market is in Argentina itself because it's importing all the fuel that it needs at the moment. And in fact, Brazil is just bringing on its third nuclear reactor, and they announced a couple of weeks ago that they don't have enough of their own fuel, so they'll be looking to import. And there's a free trade agreement between Brazil and Argentina. But the other critical thing is that Argentina has just signed nuclear cooperation agreements with the United Arab Emirates, which is building 4 reactors, with China that's building 29, and with South Korea that's building 8. So with those nuclear cooperation agreements, obviously there are markets available as well. And really, the growth in nuclear, although there is some that's going on in the States and in Canada at the moment, the huge market is in the East, particularly China.
And I guess probably has a lot to do with the fact that in North America we've got established energy grids, whereas you're more likely to expand around the world where people are just growing and trying to figure out which way to go, and you've got a more equal footing there?
Well, the requirement for energy is just massive in the emerging markets and in the parts of the world where people are just starting to earn a reasonable wage. And their requirement is for electricity more than anything else, because they need the refrigerator, they need the TV and whatever else it is. So that's where the huge market is. And you're absolutely right. I mean, in the States and in the developed world at the moment, it's really an argument between do you shut down the coal-fired power station, get rid of all those people, and move to nuclear? It's one or the other. And the political effect of having to get rid of the coal-fired power station is huge. Whereas in China or India or any of one of those places, they're saying, okay, this is new demand that we require. Shall we build a coal-fired power station or nuclear? Politically, it's a much easier decision.
Gentlemen, fantastic. I wish this could go on longer, because even though you're two different kind of companies, you have a lot of the same issues that face you and a lot of the same potential advantages that face you at the same time. But thanks for being here. Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
The show is over, but your work is just beginning. If you think you may have found the next biggest winner tonight, take the time to learn more about each company by visiting their websites and speak to your financial advisor. If you want to get interactive, join us on Twitter @NextBiggest, or get to Agoracom. We can talk about these companies with fellow shareholders. Be sure to join us next week when we've got more great companies for you. I'm George Cholos, wishing you a good night from all of us at the Next Biggest Winner.